So after the recent chapter and of the showcase of Yuki, especially on Twitter, I haven't seen too much on Reddit or other apps, but the agendas have been on the maximum I've ever seen. Obviously the Utah fans are pushing their agenda saying, well, if Utah is a second to Gojo, then surely he's gonna clap up Kenjaku. And then the Yuki fans are saying, there's a quote that specifies on unusual abilities. If Kenjaku doesn't rate Utah but rates Yuki, then surely Yuki's stronger. And then the Kenjaku fans are saying, listen, relax on him, chill on him, he is going to sweep him. And I even saw people saying just curse Ganesha is enough for Utah. At the end of the day, what we can see is that there is a lot of agendas being pushed at the coming of this previous chapter. And even though I am a person who likes to push an agenda, you've seen it many times with Hikari, I have to be the voice of reason for today. Give a more non-biased take. The fate of obviously Yuki, Utah and Kenjaku. The first thing I want to clear is matchups matter. I'm gonna say it again because some people are forgetting this isn't Dragon Ball Z. Matchups matter a lot. And the Kenjaku downplay I'm getting from people showing Yuki one-shotting the cursed Ganesha. I think people need to understand just because Kenjaku put out his domain expansion does not mean that he is weaker than Yuki. Similarly, we haven't seen enough of Yuki as well, so there's a lot more to come from her and to potentially put her on a higher scale. But the fact that she has an arsenal of that level and her curse technique being super broken, it's more than valid to say that she's relative to these special grades or potentially stronger than certain people you would like to say. But the reason why I'm saying don't sleep on Kenjaku is, in my opinion, he made the tactical approach to do the right thing. When I said that matchups matter, her ability directly counters anything with curse spirit manipulation and the fact that she obviously negates concepts. Currently, we need to see how that goes into effect and to define what concepts are affected. There's some people who believe she can negate things such as infinity, and there's others who believe no based on the principles of the concepts and etc. And I'm kind of in the middle where I want to give it time and see more of her ability and showcase for me to really make those assumptions. But similarly, why I go back to the Kenjaku downplay is him pulling out his domain doesn't showcase that he's weaker than Yuki or now has lost his credibility. If anything, it boosts it in my personal opinion because he realized there's no point going back to back with curse spirit manipulation if she directly counters me. Yes, he might have things such as gravity technique, which we are still yet to see, but the fact that he pulled out his domain was the best opportunity to be able to fight back, and now we're about to see what Tengen is going to do in that showcase. And now let's wrap this all the way back to Utah because there's an important reason why I said that they're all relative. Regardless who you think is the strongest, because if you ask me my personal opinion, I believe Kenjaku is the strongest out of all of them. These are all special grades. And in a special grade clash that isn't Gojo or Sukuna facing the rest of our cast, nobody's going to get washed. I feel as if a person who has become significantly underrated is Geto personally. I understand people try to say, oh, Geto lost to a Utah who just started Jujutsu. Well, even though Utah has better combat experience, has a domain expansion, is more proficient in RCT, his ability in being able to use Rika for the maximum is still very difficult. And even though I do believe that Volume 0 is very inconsistent in the power system, the fact that they said Rika would give Gojo a tough time, even though I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't believe it. I think it was just a hype up the thing. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't believe it. But just for that quote alone, we can showcase that Geto has to be someone of significance being able to go in a 2v1 against these two dangerous people. Now I go back to the fact because I've seen a lot of Utah downplay, especially after the recent chapters. And listen, even though I love pushing my Hikari agenda, we have to keep it nuanced and keep it proper. Utah is still him. Yuki is still her. Kenjaku is still him. And whoever you have on top of each other, it doesn't matter because like I said, matchups are the most important thing. Yes, there are things such as Utah and his array of arsenal, and we're currently in this previous chapter got to get more showcase at the fact that Utah's strength comes from the fact that Rika can hold multiple curse techniques to prevent a brain overload. So a lot of us who are like, oh, has Utah limited himself by keeping Rika again? Because obviously we're still unaware of the process of how he got Rika back. But the fact is, this has further boosted the usefulness of somebody such as Rika, and I know it isn't to the state of him having her all the time, but still being able to inhabit that many techniques in that regard is something of a plus, which gives him a new level of utility that a lot of fighters just will never have. Now, why I say that they're all relative is, like I said, if you're not Gojo or Sukuna, you're not on their scale. They're just all around the same thing. And listen, I'm gonna throw Geto there because I feel Geto gets underrated for that previous fight, like I just said. But special grades aren't going to get washed. Even though I do believe if Kenjaku, and like I said, if you haven't seen that video, you can see why I say Kenjaku will win and Yuki will survive. I still think if Kenjaku was to fight Yuta, Kenjaku will win, but it's not going to be an easy fight. There may be times that I may exaggerate to try push my Kenjaku agenda because I believe Kenjaku will win. There's still a lot of things to indicate that Yuta will do more than enough and potentially push him in a similar manner. However, I do believe that Yuki just sets up nicely against his ability of curse spirit manipulation. The reason why potentially Kenjaku also has a big advantage against somebody such as Yuta than Yuki is he has retained the memories from Geto, being able to see him in action, and a Yuta in action who had Rika for his whole time. Now obviously that Yuta has got stronger in regards to his overall abilities, but still the fact that they could have an intense clash between each other, because if we keep it real, how many characters in the series are really going toe to toe against 5 minutes Yuta? But then the reason I want to make it more nuanced and I make it a little bit more grounded in these conversations, because I'm not trying to go in depth of Kenjaku's better, Yuki's better, or Yuta's better. There's still a lot more to come from these fighters that could really change that avenue. And I think a lot of people need to not overreact as much as we have been and keep it grounded in your agendas pushed. Each of these characters have still so much to showcase to us. Yuta, we still haven't seen his domain expansion. We still haven't seen all the arsenal of the curse techniques he has. And there's still potential, small potential I'm holding on, that he can fix his 5-minute limit. And if he takes his 5-minute limit, the conversation changes so much more. You know that, because 5 minutes is still a weakness. I don't care how much you love Yuta. Even though Yuta is still him, I'm not going to downplay him. But 5 minutes is still a weakness. Take that away, bruh, what are we talking about? This takes him to a whole new level, whole new level. And then Yuki, we still have to see this potential high output technique that Kenjaku has talked about, her potential domain expansion, and to see her more in combat. There's still so much we haven't seen from her. And then Kenjaku himself, what techniques does he have? What is his actual inherited technique that has allowed him to potentially inhabit other ones? Was Yuki's assumption of Uzumaki correct, that he could only extract techniques once? Does he have a barrierless domain? Has his 1,000 years of experience allowed him to make him this menace that he has? And there's still so much that we don't even know basically about the power system itself. People are going forward saying, yes, this agenda is correct. Like, I hear you. Like I said, push an agenda. I will forever be pushing Megami top of the series at the end of the series by the end. Trust me. But when I say we talk about this stuff, just make sure, remember, there's still more to come. Gege hasn't put anybody to blow out another person, pause, unless you're like Gojo or Sukuna, especially when we're talking about special grades. So just remember that when you're talking about the matchups, because the most important thing, like I've said again, matchups is the most important thing, and it really differentiates what happens in the outcomes. Like, I'm not going to hate on anyone pushing their agenda. I love to push an agenda as well. But I do think, regardless of who you think is better, to say that they're not relative is disingenuous, especially with the way the story has gone, and the fact that even people who could be seen as weaker are never overly blown out unless it's the highest top tiers in the series. So for example, if you're special grade going to grade 1, yes, they're going to body them, that's obvious, because we know what the definition of being special grade is, and we know the power you need to be a special grade and to showcase that level of strength. But a good example is, let's go to someone such as Choso. I'm not going to talk about the fight with Kenjaku, but him against, for example, because I'm going to start later on in the series, start pushing grade 0, because I know there's grade 1 and then there's special grade. But people such as Akari, Kashimo, Uro and everything, they're not special grade potentially, but they're obviously not grade 1 as well. They're just on the tier above, so you know, I'm making up grade 0. I'm going to keep that now. So let's say they're in this level of grade 0, and I would put Choso at the very bottom of that. Yes, those people I've mentioned such as Akari, Kashimo, Uru, Ryu are far stronger. Apart from Hikari when he's in his jackpot because of his ability of obviously reverse curse technique. Ryu and them, man, it takes one piercing blood and they're not somebody such as Kenjaku who is not affected by their blood or have the reverse curse technique to locate poisons. So just simple things like that can indicate to us why it's a little bit more nuanced when it comes to fights, and is why I've been specifying that matchups are the most important thing in JJK. Matchups really differentiate how a character will go against each other, and even if a character is theoretically stronger, that doesn't mean jack shit if a person can match up much better against them. So I feel as if people trying to obviously push the agenda because this person has been stated to be stronger, or this person's ability is crazy. Okay, that is true, but then when they come against a person who has such a bad matchup to them, they're going to have to find new ways to get over that, and maybe in a situation where they're stronger but still lose to that fighter. So I feel as if, and this is kind of just to wrap up on everything, whoever you think is stronger between the 3 special grades that I've mentioned, that's up to you, and I don't think it's wrong. The thing that is great about JJK, and even Gege said it in the interview, he likes to leave it up into interpretation and let people decide on what they think is stronger than each other. Of course, there are going to be things that push other things because of feats and abilities and whatnot and that. But I feel as if people need to keep it real. No special grade, if you're not Gojo and Sukuna, fighting another special grade is washing them. Because the way Gege has set up the power system and the power scaling in the series in general, he's kept it very consistent and nuanced with the fact that there is a lot more than this guy is stronger than him, so he beats him up. Like, come on, man. We're not, as much as I love Dragon Ball, this is not Dragon Ball, guy. Where you have to keep it consistent. But if you want to ask me, who do I think is stronger between the 3? I have Kenjaku first, and I want to push Yuki second, but I need to see more of Yuki. But at this current juncture, I do believe Yuki is potentially second, and I just think that her ability is crazy. And my only knock against Utah is the 5-minute counter. But aside from that, he's still him. He has RCD, he has partial manifestation of Rika, and then he has the full manifestation of Rika. So at the end of the day, these are all amazing characters who are top tiers for a reason. And whoever you decide is stronger is up to you. I'm not going to get mad at you. To be honest, I don't actually care. If you actually think it's stronger on a big man team, I don't care. So I feel as if when you push your agenda, push it with some sense at least.